In the small mining town of Clay Creek, Kentucky, the earth had always been both a friend and a curse. The men who lived there depended on it, their hands blackened by its coal, their lungs filled with its dust, their lives shortened by its silent hunger. Among them was Sam Harlan, a 36-year-old foreman with a gentle soul and tired eyes. He had a wife, Martha, and a young boy, Eli, who would wait at the mine entrance every evening, holding a dented lunch pail. The town was struggling that winter of 1914. Wages were thin, coal prices were down, and food was running out. Then came word from the mine company boss, Mr. Clayton Brigg, that a new shaft would be opened, deeper than any before. Deeper means richer veins, Brigg had said with a greedy grin. But Sam, who had worked underground since he was 16, had a bad feeling. He'd seen what the earth did when you dug too far. Still, men with empty pockets have little room for fear. On a fog-heavy morning, the new shaft 12, opened. It was said to reach a depth of 1,200 feet, nearly twice the norm for mines of that era. Sam's crew was chosen for the job: Tommy Dillard, the jokester; Isaac Bell, the quiet veteran miner; Raymond Red Carter, a hot-headed but loyal young man; and Earl Norris, a preacher's son who swore he could hear the ground breathe. The first few days went smoothly. Too smoothly. The deeper they went, the richer the coal. It was as if the earth wanted them to come closer. But at 720 feet, the air grew strangely cold, and the lamps flickered even when there was no draft. Tommy joked that the devil's got bad plumbing down here. No one laughed. Sam wrote in his notebook that night, "The deeper we go, the more it feels like the ground ain't just dirt. It's alive." By the end of the second week, the crew began hearing things. It started faint. Soft tapping sounds that didn't match the rhythm of the drills. Then came murmurs, like wind whispering through rock. Earl was the first to mention it. "You hear that, Sam?" "It's like voices. Praying, maybe." Sam told him it was just air pressure, sound carried strangely underground. But that night, Isaac swore he heard his late brother calling his name from the tunnel walls. When they reached 900 feet, the walls of the shaft changed. The coal seams gave way to a strange gray rock that shimmered faintly in lamplight. None of them had seen its like before. "Looks like glass," Red muttered. Sam touched it. It was cold, not like stone, but like ice that breathed. He decided they'd send a sample up for testing, but when he chipped a piece off, it let out a low, metallic hum, like a voice buried deep below. 3 nights later, the first accident happened. While loading a cart, Tommy screamed. When they rushed over, his lantern lay shattered and his face was pale as chalk. "Something grabbed me," he gasped. "From the wall." There were scratches along his arm. Deep, straight lines like claws or sharp tools. But the rock was solid. No one believed him except Earl, who started humming hymns under his breath. They decided to seal that section of the shaft. But when Sam returned the next morning, he found that the timber barriers had been torn down. No one admitted to it. That night, Sam couldn't sleep. He dreamt of tunnels stretching into forever, and something huge moving far beneath them, whispering in a voice that wasn't human, but curiously mournful. At 1,050 feet, the drills broke through into a hollow. When they shone their lamps through the crack, the light vanished, swallowed by a vast underground chamber. Curiosity and fear battled in Sam's heart. The company ordered him to explore and mark the chamber. So, with ropes and lamps, the 5 men descended into the unknown. The floor wasn't rock. It was smooth, black, and strangely symmetrical, like it had been carved. In the center of the cavern stood a monolith, about 15 feet tall, perfectly polished, pulsing faintly with light. No one spoke for a long time. "What in God's name is that?" whispered Isaac. "Not God's," Earl murmured, trembling. "Something older." When Sam touched it, a vibration ran up his arm. Images flashed in his mind. Endless tunnels, stars, cities made of glass. He jerked his hand back, gasping. For a moment, the monolith glowed brighter, as if it had noticed him. Word spread fast. By the next day, Mr. Brigg himself came down, along with 2 scientists from the company. They claimed the structure was a mineral deposit, though their eyes betrayed unease. Brigg only saw dollar signs. "If this thing's valuable, we'll make Clay Creek famous," he said. "Keep your mouths shut, boys, and you'll be rewarded." Sam protested. "Sir, the ground's unstable. We should seal it and—" Brigg cut him off. "You dig, Harlan. That's your job." So they kept digging. Around the monolith, beneath it. But the more they removed, the more it seemed to grow, as if the earth was rebuilding it. Earl started bleeding from his nose. Tommy's hands shook constantly. Isaac began humming in his sleep, repeating words in a language no one knew. And every night that hum, the one from the stone, got louder. On the 21st day the monolith cracked. A seam of light appeared across its middle, white and pure like lightning. Then came a sound, deep, low, like the heartbeat of the world. The lamps flickered, and the miners fell to their knees from the vibration. When the light dimmed, they saw symbols carved along the shaft walls, glowing faintly. They hadn't been there before. Sam wanted to pull the men out, but Brigg ordered them to continue. "You don't walk away from discovery," he barked. That night, Sam's wife, Martha, woke from a nightmare, screaming that Eli was standing in a field of stars calling for his father. The next morning, Sam found his notebook missing, and the monolith now had a faint, human-like shape within it. Isaac was the first to die. He wandered off alone during a shift change, muttering that they're waiting. When they found him, he was kneeling before the monolith, eyes open but lifeless, his face serene, like he'd seen something beautiful before the end. The company called it an accident. Sam knew better. That night, he gathered the men. "We end this tomorrow. We fill the shaft, seal it, and leave Clay Creek if we have to." But as they prepared to leave, the mine shook violently. The monolith split down the middle, and something inside began to move. A long silver appendage unfolded from within, like liquid metal taking shape. Then came another. It wasn't mechanical. It wasn't alive. It was something between both. The air around it hummed, and all lamps blew out. When the dust settled, the monolith was gone. In its place lay a hollow pit, its edges glowing faintly. Earl whispered, "It's gone back home." But Tommy swore he saw eyes, a dozen of them, open inside that pit before it faded into shadow. They fled the mine. Above ground, they found the air still and unnaturally quiet. Even the birds were gone. Mr. Brigg ordered the shaft sealed and declared the site off-limits. He paid each man to stay silent. But Sam couldn't forget the hum, nor the image that entered his dreams every night. A colossal being, neither flesh nor machine, lying beneath the earth for millennia, waiting to be remembered. He began to suspect they hadn't released it. They had woken it. Weeks passed. Clay Creek began to crumble. Crops failed, wells dried, and animals disappeared. Some said it was just bad luck. Others whispered that the mine had cursed the town. Sam packed his family's bags. "We're leaving," he told Martha. But before they could go, Mr. Brigg came knocking. He looked pale, sickly, as if the earth itself was draining him. "We're reopening Shaft 12, he said. "The company wants what's down there." "You'll lead the crew again," Sam refused. Brigg smirked. "If you don't, I'll make sure every man in town starves." That night, Sam went alone to the mine entrance. He stood before the sealed gate and listened. From deep below, he heard the hum again. But now it sounded different, softer, almost human. He placed his hand on the earth and whispered, "If you can hear me, forgive us." The ground trembled, once gently, as if answering. Then the hum faded. Sam turned and walked home, never looking back. The night after Sam visited the mine alone, Clay Creek shook. Not like an earthquake. It was a long, low rumble that made windows tremble and lamps flicker, lasting almost a full minute. Dogs howled. The river turned the color of ash. Martha clutched Eli close and whispered, "It's the mine. It's calling them back." When dawn came, smoke rose from the ground where shaft 12 had been sealed. The boards had splintered outward, not inward, as if something beneath had pushed up. The company men arrived within hours, panicked and desperate. Mr. Brigg, looking half mad, accused Sam. "You went down there, didn't you? You woke it again." Sam only shook his head. "Whatever's down there doesn't want us. It just wants to be left alone, but greed never listens." By noon, Brigg had assembled a new crew, mostly outsiders paid in cash. Still, he demanded Sam guide them. Sam refused at first, until one of Brigg's men shoved him against the wall and said, "If you ain't comin', we'll take your boy instead." That night, Sam kissed Martha's trembling hands and promised he'd come back. "If I don't," he said softly, "take Eli and head east. Don't look back." At sunrise, he descended into the mine once more. The shaft was colder than ever. Their breath fogged in the lamplight. The deeper they went, the more the air felt heavy, as though the world itself were pressing down. And at 1,050 feet they found footprints, not boots, not human. Each print was smooth, oval, and glowing faintly blue, leading toward the collapsed chamber where the monolith had once stood. When they reached the chamber, it looked nothing like before. The floor was no longer black. It had turned transparent, revealing what looked like a massive shape buried beneath. Veins of light coursing through it like rivers. Brigg stared in awe. "My God, it's alive," he whispered. "We've found something living under the earth." Sam felt the same vibration through his boots he'd felt weeks before, the pulse of something ancient and intelligent. One of the new workers approached the glassy surface. The moment his hand touched it, the light flared and he was gone, vanished, leaving only his helmet behind. The men screamed. Sam dragged Brigg back toward the tunnels, shouting, "It's not meant for us. Run!" But the ground split open, a narrow crack stretching across the chamber floor, whispering like a voice through stone. "Why, do you dig?" Sam froze. He hadn't heard it with his ears. He felt it inside him. He turned slowly toward the glowing fissure. "We don't mean harm," he said shakily. "We were hungry, desperate." We didn't know. The voice pulsed again, this time softer. "You break what you do not understand, yet you beg for light." Brigg, trembling, shouted at the empty air, "I'm not begging. I'm claiming what's mine." The light surged upward, wrapping around him like molten silk. Brigg screamed, but not in pain. It was ecstasy, awe, terror, all at once. Then he vanished, leaving nothing but echoes. The glow dimmed and silence returned. Sam fell to his knees, gasping. "It doesn't want us," he murmured. "It's protecting itself." Sam and the remaining miners fled, climbing toward the surface as the tunnels began to crumble. The strange glass turned to dust, the light fading. Halfway up, an explosion ripped through the shaft. The last thing Sam remembered was a blinding white flash and the sound of the mountain collapsing inward. When he woke, he was lying outside under a bruised dawn sky. Clay Creek was gone, buried under tons of rock and smoke. He crawled, half-conscious, to where the mine entrance had been. The ground still vibrated faintly beneath his palm. Not in anger, but in sorrow. He whispered, "It's done. You're free." And for the first time in weeks, he felt peace. Days later, federal rescue crews arrived. But there was nothing left to save. The company called it an industrial tragedy. The newspapers printed headlines about the Clay Creek collapse, claiming a gas pocket had caused the explosion. No one mentioned the monolith, the lights, or the voices. Martha and Eli were evacuated to a nearby county. When Martha saw Sam limping out of the rescue tent, covered in dust but alive, she fell to her knees sobbing. For weeks, Sam didn't speak of what he'd seen. But at night, he'd sit by the window, listening to the wind in the trees, half expecting to hear that low hum again. He never did, yet deep inside, he felt it, a quiet, steady rhythm beneath the world, like a heartbeat waiting to be remembered. In the spring of 1915, Sam received a letter postmarked from the company headquarters. Inside was a single sentence, typed neatly. "We will continue the dig elsewhere." No signature, no return address. Sam burned the letter immediately. Then he went to the local church and asked the pastor to record his testimony. Everything he remembered, from the shimmering rock to the voice in the earth. "I don't care if no one believes me," he said. "But if they ever start digging deep again, they need to know." He sealed the pages in a tin box and buried it near the old mine's edge. Years passed. Eli grew up hearing fragments of his father's story, a story most folks in Kentucky dismissed as superstition. By 1930, Eli had become a geologist, determined to learn the truth of what had taken Clay Creek. He spent years studying strange mineral samples found across the Appalachian Range, glassy veins that pulsed faintly under heat. One night while camping near the old site, he placed a small shard of that strange stone near the campfire. It began to hum, the same low rhythmic sound his father had once described, and for a moment the night sky above flickered, as if the stars themselves were blinking in response. Eli realized then, whatever had slept beneath Clay Creek wasn't gone. It was everywhere. Decades later, in his old age, Eli returned to the abandoned valley where Clay Creek once stood. The forest had grown thick over the ruins. No one lived there anymore. The land was considered unstable. He brought with him his father's old tin box, rusted but intact. Inside were Sam's words. "We dug for coal, but we found the soul of the earth, and she spoke. She warned us not to take more than we give." Eli smiled sadly and knelt, pressing his hand into the soil. The ground was warm. He whispered, "We understand now. We won't dig too deep again." For a brief moment, he felt the faintest tremor, a gentle hum, like a sigh of relief. Then the wind rose, carrying the sound away into the hills. In 1954, a new mining company proposed reopening Clay Creek Valley. When surveyors arrived, they found their instruments malfunctioning, compasses spinning, machinery failing. And every night a strange vibration shook their camp. Not violent, but rhythmic, like the beating of a distant heart. They left within a week. The site was officially declared geologically unstable and sealed forever. Local legend grew. Whispers of the sleeping light beneath Kentucky. Some said it was an alien, others an ancient guardian. But for those who remembered Sam Harlan, they knew the truth. It wasn't a monster or a god. It was the earth itself, alive in ways men had forgotten, and merciful enough to forgive those who had disturbed her rest. In the quiet of his final night, Sam's son Eli wrote one last line in his father's old notebook. "We are all miners, digging through life for meaning. But some depths aren't meant for taking, only for understanding." As the candlelight flickered out, The ground beneath Clay Creek gave one soft, echoing hum, a sound like forgiveness.